Welcome back to Young Married Christian. We are on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. And in this episode, Debo talks to a girl named Blake.
I could go for a mean tweet right now.
Apologies up front. It finally happened. It was going to happen one of these days. And unfortunately, episode 7, it did happen. We had a major audio snafu. For whatever reason, the recorder that we were using didn't start a new track while we were taking breaks during the episode, and it recorded over. So the second hour recorded over the first hour, the third hour recorded over the second hour. Way too many details, and I know you guys probably don't care that much, except for the fact that the next few hours of listening is going to suck a little bit. Super sorry. Obviously, we, hope that this never happens again, but wanted to give you a heads up before we dive into it.
Yeah, even though the audio is crap, the content is still amazing as always. I'm wearing the mask on my face right now in honor of Blake and how heated and how opinionated she was on mask mandates and vaccination mandates. It got spicy.
It did get spicy, folks.
That's in my DNA.
They also talked about the Enneagram, which I personally am pretty passionate about the Enneagram. Come to find out, so is Blake. She had a lot of what I thought were really incredible things to say about it.
I want to allow you to see who I really am.
I definitely had some good takeaways from the Enneagram for myself and Ashley even. And then we got into the mystery of why some men take 30-minute poops, including myself.
It's just too much.
I never thought we would be hosting an interview about poops, but sure enough, they spent like 5 or 7 minutes talking about it. And I was just over there in the studio thinking, all right, this is happening. We're talking about poops.
It was the crap.
All right, regardless, we hope you love this episode. Sorry again for the audio.
And hold on to your prayer beads, Glenda, because we are young, married,
Christian!
I walk on just like right down the street, and I like literally I could like throw something and hit a walk-ons anywhere in Louisiana. So it's like I know the food is good, so let's go there.
But unlike the Chick-fil-A that you have right now, it ain't pre-blessed.
No, it's not the Lord's chicken, but it was still really good.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, like in Louisiana, when you get out of church on a Sunday, if you're going to like your favorite drive-through, where are you going?
We're not.
Because Chick-fil-A is closed?
Yeah.
If you had to choose any drive-through,
No.
You couldn't even choose one.
No. No.
Do you not do fast food?
No.
Just Chick-fil-A?
Mm-hmm. I don't eat gluten.
No gluten?
No gluten.
I feel so bad for offering you so much gluten the other night.
There was maybe the crab cake had a little bit of gluten, but I only had like a little bite of it. Nothing else did.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
French fries aren't gluten. People think French fries are gluten and they're not. They're potatoes.
Okay. You don't have to call me out for not understanding what
No,
gluten
I'm
means.
not calling you out. I'm saying. I'm telling you, you didn't offer me a ton of gluten.
I'm gluten and ignorant. Okay.
But I also I refuse to be like that obnoxious gluten-free person that's like, I don't eat. Like, it's the worst.
So do you do all of your cooking at home then, or do you just go out to like sit-down restaurants when you're going out, like to eat?
We mostly eat at home. My parents live like 10 minutes from us, like where I live. So like on a Sunday, like we go over there and have lunch. Like we really don't eat out a ton.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it. But if we do, it's usually like a sit-down place or Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
Because those. But you also, if you're not going to eat gluten, like I don't eat gluten because like, I don't eat gluten, like it like wrecks my stomach. Like I don't think I have celiac, I think I just have like an intolerance to gluten.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I have to be kind of.
Yeah, I'm learning that I think I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's sad that it's taken me 31 years to realize
I'm 32. Like I just stopped eating gluten like a year ago.
Okay, wow. So
yeah, you're not far behind.
And like, even though I realize it, I have a massive addiction to ranch, being from the Midwest. And
Is ranch dairy? Is ranch
right?
dressing?
I would think. Is ranch dairy?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Please Google that.
I mean, the bottle for Hidden Valley Ranch makes it look very dairy.
Wait, so
And
you're
it's very
going off of
creamy.
it's dairy because the bottle looks like it's dairy?
I
Is there
mean,
dairy in ranch dressing? Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, okay. What is
Ranch
it?
dressing often contains buttermilk, sour cream, or yogurt. due to
Buttermilk.
its tangy flavor.
Wait, there's got to be a way to make dairy free
ranch.
ranch, because you can buy like the ranch packets, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's like a dairy free?
But then that wouldn't be the ranch that I probably want to be.
True. But that's the thing about finding out that you have an intolerance, is learning to like be okay with like substitutes. Like I know how to make a really good gluten-free like cinnamon coffee cake, because it's like my favorite. So you like learn how to like make things with almond flour. Like I can make. Remember we were at the restaurant and I said I love fried green tomatoes.
Yeah.
I can make like almond flour fried green tomatoes at home.
That sounds very healthy.
But it doesn't really taste that healthy.
So it's like the good taste, but with like
But
the
without the
nutrition
gluten.
and without the gluten.
It's not okay. So people think gluten free. I saw a TikTok the other day. It was like, everybody's like, "Oh, you're gluten free. You must be so healthy." Tell that to the 12 gluten free Oreos I had last night. Like, it's not
The
always
dark chocolate Oreos.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not always. I'm not like. And I don't eat a ton of dairy. So yesterday, having butterbeer and ice cream was like, okay, Snow, I need you to like do your job.
And then you're riding roller coaster after roller coaster.
Dude,
after
we
roller
did
coaster.
Forbidden Castle right after we had butterbeer.
Oh yeah.
And both Kylie and I were like, maybe we should take a break for a second.
Yeah. The Forbidden Journey inside Hogwarts.
Yes, we did
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
We did that in Gringotts twice.
Ooh, those are good.
They were really good. I think Gringotts was my favorite.
Well-
I don't think there's anything we didn't ride though.
Except for Velocicoaster. But that's next time. It makes me kind of sad that you don't eat any fast food at all, because I feel like I love fast food so much. I know it's like my unhealthy addiction, and I'm like curbing that. I'm trying to like slow it down. But I literally at one point, like this is maybe like a few months ago, had the idea of doing a social media platform called Hillbilly Dilly, where I just reviewed like fast food items.
Wait, okay. Just because I don't eat fast food doesn't mean I don't love fast food.
Okay.
Like, oh my god, I love Taco Bell.
Okay, have you seen the new Taco Bells that they're
obviously.
building?
Oh.
The 2-story Taco Bells.
Okay, I live
where
in Louisiana. So maybe like reel in your expectations.
okay, so
No, I have not.
They look
We
amazing.
still have Taco Bells from like the 90s.
Mm.
So
Yeah, these are like the Jetsons Taco
Cool.
Bell, where you pull up. I guess the feature is now, everything's already like on the mobile.
Yeah.
Like you've already ordered it, you've already paid for it, and you pull up like an ATM, and like at the bank where it like
No.
drops your money through like a tube, your food comes down an elevator, and like ding, and then you just get your food and you drive away. Taco Bell.
we better enjoy those for like the 6 months we have until we're in the Hunger Games and they take all that stuff from us.
I mean, I just watched the first episode. We just started Handmaid's
Don't do that to
Tale
yourself.
last
Don't
night.
do that to yourself.
I was
we
like
just
having
talked
nightmares
about,
last
we
night.
just talked at dinner about like watching these dystopian shows and how it's like it's not funny anymore because they're too real.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even with like the fast food restaurants nearby us, or like Dunkin' Donuts right down the street. It's where Ashley always like gets her coffee.
Mm-hmm.
It is now like closed the
Mhm.
majority of days.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, what's happening? We go to even restaurants like walk-offs, right?
Walk-ons.
Walk-ons. Man, I 50-50 shot there.
You were close.
Walk-ons. Like all those restaurants, like they can't get anyone to work, and it's
No.
like,
Or come in.
or come in. Like the
They were empty.
aftermath of
Right.
COVID is
Right.
legit, and I mean, I don't
And this
know.
is Florida. This is like land of the free. Like think about places like Michigan that are still, or friggin' New York,
Yeah,
California.
I just hope that you get to fly home today
Dude, don't
after
joke
this.
with me. Like I know, I had
Think-
that thought
Things are happening fast.
very quickly. Did you see like the $200 for Delta employees?
No, what's
Can
that?
we talk about that?
Yeah.
Like if you're an unvaccinated Delta employee, you have to pay $200 a month.
Wait, you have to pay Delta if you're an employee.
If you're unvaccinated.
If you're unvaccinated.
Yeah.
So you're not paying, you're just getting docked.
No. They said, like, you have to pay a $200 surcharge, is what the, like, headlines say.
So now employees that aren't vaccinated are getting paid less, or like they're getting penalized.
Yeah. It was a matter of time.
I don't know like what's worse.
I'm sure they're like
that,
chalking
or...
it up to like health insurance BS or something.
Mm.
But I literally yesterday while I was in the park, my trainer texted me, and I had told her like months ago when I work out, and this is like 30% a joke. I imagine training for the Hunger Games. Because I love those movies, I love those books. And so she texted me yesterday and she was like, you know how you always say that you're training for the Hunger Games when you work out? I was like, yeah. And she's like, it's not funny anymore. She's like, that joke just became not funny.
Did you just like in the middle of Universal Studios, like pull up one of these?
Okay, when I see people without masks on, like in public places that you're supposed to wear masks, I want to like Hunger Games salute them, but I know most people wouldn't get it. But I want to. I feel like it should become like a universal sign.
Yeah, my game that I play in the theme parks is looking at the people not wearing masks and choosing who I think even has the vaccine, because it's supposed to be like if you have
well, that's
it,
not even a thing anymore though. The CDC now, it's like everybody wears masks. It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I go by Universal's rules here in Orlando.
Oh, okay. No, I think even Universal, they like recommend that everybody wear them indoors.
Yeah, recommend.
Which I appreciated. I was like, thank you for letting me make my own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so places like in Louisiana, there's a very brief period of time where it was, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. So obviously everybody stopped wearing a mask. But it was a fun game. Like, are you a rebel or are you vaccinated?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a rebel or are you vaccinated?
Yeah.
We're like the third least vaccinated state in the country.
What's number 1 and number 2? Do you know?
I think Mississippi, Alabama.
It's like all
Rise
SEC.
again. Like, I know, right?
The SEC football conference this season is going to be interesting.
No, but you know what? LSU just put out that you have to be vaccinated to go to the games. I hope they go under. I pulled my alumni funding. I'm not sending them any money.
I heard NFL players are now wearing bands to show if they're vaccinated or not.
Saints are requiring the vaccine too, and they just had to put tickets on sale for $1. $1.
But all the people online are like, get the vaccine, so why is it not selling out?
Because it's not the majority.
It's just the majority of the noise.
They're just louder.
Online, yeah.
There's that meme that's like, wait until the people who just want to be left alone get involved. I think that's accurate.
So, I know you don't really have much of an opinion on the mandate with the vaccines.
No, not at all. Totally, I'm opinionated about most everything.
But if I was to give you a soapbox and just like tell people or just like explain to me kind of like your thoughts on, maybe you're against the vaccine, maybe you're against the mandate, maybe you're against both. Like, why is that such a... Because I know that you have a huge opinion on it. Why are you so black and white about it and making sure that you tell your followers and everyone on Instagram that they also need to, like, be able to make that decision? Like, there's no gray area here for you. Like,
no.
You're not like, hey, guys...
I don't think there's a gray area for anybody about the mandate.
Right.
You can be pro-vaccine and anti-mandate. Like, my DMs are full of people who have gotten the vaccine. Also, can we just talk about for a second that I'm so used to censoring myself online that I'm like, I want to call it like the jab. Because you don't say vaccine online, because that's how you get nuked. That's how you get your account nuked, is like saying the word vaccine all the time.
Well,
but I can say it here.
We'll see if we get nuked.
No, I don't think you will. But
yeah, you just have banners over every video.
Literally every single thing I post.
I'm like, wow.
I feel used to it now.
I feel like Blake is sponsored by COVID-19.
Sponsored by misinformation is what I'm sponsored by.
It's like, don't listen to her about vitamins. Go get the vaccine.
Oh my gosh, I literally put up a post about the vitamins that my family takes, that I take, that my kids take, that we take if we start to get sick, and it got like the banner for COVID-19, like, vitamins, guys. That tells you everything you need to know about big tech right there. They like, anyway, I'm not gonna go like full tinfoil hat.
If Flintstones Vitamins is getting a COVID ban, come on. Like,
I mean,
yabba dabba, don't do it. Like, just calm down, people.
literally.
Okay, so here's your soapbox.
Yeah.
What's your, why such a big push on this?
I don't know if I've ever had anybody ask me why. I think it's because, like, I think most people just want to be left alone. I'm a libertarian at heart. Like, small government, leave me alone. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Like, unpopular opinion, I don't think that it should be government mandated to wear a seatbelt. Me wearing a seatbelt doesn't hurt you. It hurts me. So it's kind of the same thing with the vaccine. Like, people have been told by the media that my vaccine protects you, and that's bull. Like, no, I'm not a virologist. I'm not a doctor, but I can read, and I can actually read research relatively well because I'm a mildly intelligent individual, and I understand that this vaccine, first of all, doesn't protect. First of all, it doesn't touch the Delta variant, and the Alpha variant is basically gone. So we're basically just dealing with the Delta variant. People who are vaccinated with the that are vaccinated have the same viral load as the unvaccinated with the Delta variant. They have the same exact viral load. So you can get it, you can spread it, you can get really sick from it now. Watch Israel. Watch people who are ahead of us. Israel, they're like 95% vaccinated. They are having a way bigger surge than America is, with really bad symptoms, with hospitalizations, with ventilations. They're all vaccinated. So, like, why can't I just, as an adult who is responsible for everything else in my life, you expect me to pay taxes, you expect me to drive responsibly, you expect me to not shoot people, why can't I do my own risk assessment that getting all the vaccine is going to do is protect me? I'm good with taking that risk. I have a 95.97% chance of being a bad flu if I get COVID. Like, let me make my own risk assessment and make my own decision. Like, there's always been exemptions allowed. People are like, oh, like, you get the flu shot every year. Actually, no, I don't. I don't get the flu shot every year. Thanks for making that assumption. But even if where I went or worked or whatever required that, I could get a medical exemption. I could get a religious exemption. But now they're, like, completely eliminating that for the COVID vaccine. We've just completely lost our minds. Completely lost our minds. And, you know, you see places like Italy where the vaccinated are burning their vaccine passports in solidarity with the unvaccinated in opposition to mandates. You're never going to see that here. You're never going to see that in America. Because we're just so lazy. We're so lazy and we're so selfish that, like, people are like, oh, like, I got my vaccine and I have my vaccine card. Like, I'm good. I'm sorry you can't go anywhere now, but I'm good, so figure it out.
Well, it's
I
confusing.
don't want to make, like, a mass assumption. I'm sure there are people out there that would stand in solidarity with the unvaccinated, but effectively, even if they talk about it as, like, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, don't even get me started on the comparisons with Nazi Germany.
Yeah, it's crazy that, like, the conversations I was having when Trump was still in office with, like, some of my cast member friends at Disney, when he was, like, talking about the vaccine coming out, and I remember everyone that I would talk to was very skeptical about it.
Don't get it. It's rushed.
Yeah, I mean, and it was like, yeah, I don't know, and that could have been, like, something to do politically with Trump.
But that was Disney castmates. That's not even talking about, like, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden saying, when asked, would you take Trump's vaccine, they were like, I don't think so. Now they're trying to federally mandate it.
Yeah, and it's happening fast. Like, it just seems like...
Breakneck speed.
And I'm not going to say, like for Ashley and I, like, we were very much like, do we take it, do we not? We don't know, because it's like you kind of have both sides playing, but for, like, the mandate, that's totally different. I
Totally
feel like
different.
when you're forcing it, like somebody online the other night was saying, like, they were comparing it to like getting tattoos or like eating hot dogs and stopping at red lights and like all these random things. And it was like, but no one's forcing you to do those things. Like
Nobody's ever forced me to eat
like-
a hot dog.
like those are your choice. And one of them was like, it would and the girl responded like, it'd be like if someone was like telling you, hey, it would help people if you gave your kidney up, so everyone needs to like go give their kidneys up. And the girl was like, yeah, I'll give my kidney up. And she's like, well, that's nice of you to say that, but it's a difference of like you being kind enough to say like I would give it up, and you saying, and you being forced to
And
give it
there's
up. That's a
science
difference.
to prove that you can survive with one kidney. There's decades of science
For sure.
to prove that you can survive with one kidney. People do it all the time.
And it would help people,
This
but it's
vaccine
not
has been around
mandated.
for 5 minutes.
Have you been timing this since we've been starting?
No, but the vaccine's been around for 8 months.
Yeah.
And, and then people are like, no, like the mRNA has been in development for all these years. Yeah, it never got past animal studies because all the rats died. So, like, no, this is like the most rushed, ridiculous. We're seeing so many adverse reactions.
Mm.
But those are like, an anomaly. No, they're not. Like, okay, there's science to back. This is the fastest developed vaccine in history. The shortest development in history is 10 years. It's the shortest. This one is 8 months? Less than that.
Mm.
That's insane. What? It's not going to be out of experimental trials until 22.
And then at that point, will that make you like? Let's say evidence
I
comes
don't
out.
vaccinate my kids.
Is that because of what happened with your daughter?
So my daughter almost died
Okay.
a couple of days after she got like a litany of shots.
Wow.
And that was because like I was completely uninformed as to what I was putting in my kid's body. And people are going like, oh, like call CPS, she doesn't vaccinate her kids. Again, like let me make my own risk assessment. Let me take care of my kids like the way that I want to. They're not gonna bring back polio. My kids are not gonna like be the cause of the resurgence of polio. But and it's interesting because I used to be the mom that like judged moms that didn't vaccinate their kids. Like super judgy about it. I don't know if I want my kids around other kids that aren't vaccinated. Why would you do that? It's so selfish. Da da da. And then you hold your 13-month-old while she has a 35-minute seizure and ends up ventilated and in a medically induced coma. And you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe I should do a little research into what I'm putting into my kid's body.
Like she could have died.
Yeah, she should have died. Or been brain dead.
But she's good now. She's fine.
She's awesome.
Praise God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Total God thing.
So I mean, that was a vaccine that they were telling you like, hey, she's got to get these,
Yeah.
and now when you're holding her, you're thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done? And I'm
Yeah.
sure your whole way of thinking probably changed of like.
Yeah.
Because like you were talking about earlier, just like America doesn't fight back a lot of times out of laziness,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like just out of comfort maybe of just
Very
like
much so.
we are so.
We've been conditioned to trust the government.
Mm-hmm.
We've been conditioned to trust everybody in charge, whether that's big pharma, big tech, the government. I sound like such a conspiracy theorist right now. But
I was
mean,
gonna say
it's
this
true,
is
like-
coming to you by Rumble and Parlor.
like 100% Telegram.
Yeah.
But I mean, but we're not like these wild-haired bunker building crazy people. Like, and I mean, everybody talks about like don't live in an echo chamber, which I have opinions on, but most people that I do life with think relatively similar to me. They don't like implicitly trust the government. They don't implicitly trust big pharma or big tech. They are relatively self-sustaining and take care of like support their natural immune systems and ask questions and are critical thinkers. Like there's so many more of us than the government wants you to think. They want you to think that you're in the minority and that you're crazy. I just don't buy that.
So then why, yeah, I wonder why it is. And maybe it's because like you have these huge like media outlets out there that are all saying one thing, but then like you said, you have all these other people out there, just call them the normal people or whatever, and maybe like a few like news outlets that are like kind of speaking up for this side, and it's so tough because you literally have one side saying this, one side saying this, and it's complete opposite, and they're both saying we have the science, we have the facts, like we are correct in this, and like I don't remember that growing up. I mean, it was like you had your local news,
right,
and you just took your local news as truth. You got your newspaper,
right.
For anyone that's like 16 or younger listening to this, they're like, what is he talking about? And that's what your parents wrap their ornaments in. But like, I don't remember a time where it was like such opposing pieces of information, and maybe that's just the age of social media. Like,
I think so, yeah.
Do you think that's just where we are now for the rest of history?
I don't know. I literally, those are the things I like lay in bed and think about at night. Like, I literally was talking to God last night, just kind of, what are we doing? Where's this going? How does this get any better? Because we're more divided than ever. Everything is divisive. Everything is divisive. Harry Potter is divisive. You know what I mean? Like, everything's divisive. Everybody's mad about everything. Everybody thinks they're right and everybody else is wrong, and they're unwilling and sometimes incapable of civil discourse. I was just kind of like, literally, like, God, what do we, like, is this gonna be better? Or are you coming back soon? That'd be cool. Like, I don't know. I do think, I think that people have had these opposing, like, have been on both ends of the spectrum, but we've just never had the access to the information that we have now. I think plays a big part in it, and, dude, I don't know. Like, I struggle to I get hopeless sometimes. Like, it feels hopeless, especially being, like, in the arena, being, like, an active player in the game or whatever. I mean, there are times where I have to take a couple days off the internet because I've just gotten beaten to a pulp in my DMs or in my comments for, like, thinking for myself. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you have literally made an ugly DM, like, it was like a video, like it's supposed to be like an inspirational video of like ugly DMs, and I'm seeing this stuff thinking, people are saying what?
Yeah.
Like, trying to attack not only you, but your family.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, are you having any civil discussions with these people? Like the people that are on the other side that are opposing you, have you ever once online had any kind of civil discussion?
They come out the gate guns blazing like that, like, I hope you and your kids get COVID and die. No, I'm not, like, responding to that. I just don't even respond to that. I just block people like that. I think that there are people, okay, like, let's say, like, the most divisive thing right now is vaccines, right? I think that there are people who are like, I get a lot of DMs from people like, I have gotten the vaccine, but I don't think that it should be mandated. I think that you should have a choice. In reality, those people aren't disagreeing with me. I don't think that people, like, if you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. I don't care. I literally don't care. You will not find on my platform a place where I've said don't get the vaccine. That does not exist. And I think that there are, like, subsets of the population that should get the vaccine. But I don't care about if you get the vaccine or not. I care about if you make me get the vaccine. I care about if you think that it should be okay for the federal government to make me get it. And so, honestly, the people who believe that, who do believe that it should be mandated, I have not yet found one that is capable of civil discourse that is like, let's talk about why I think the federal government should be able to mandate what you put in your body. I haven't found one of those yet.
And in the middle of all of this, like, vaccine mandate, Afghanistan talk, you just drop this big truth bomb, and you're like, hey, there's only two genders.
That's not
like,
the truth.
You're like, what's up? The Bible made me do it.
Right.
Here I am. What or things that like made you post that? Like, what even caused you to have the idea of being like, you know what, it's time.
Yeah.
Let's put this out there.
Okay, so I love the Olympics.
Yeah.
I love the Olympics. Like, have since I was a kid.
Same.
Winter, summer, set my clock by it. Like, love the Olympics. And so I'm sure most people are aware in our last Tokyo 2021 Olympics, there was a New Zealand trans woman. Is that the right way? Yes, trans woman. So man that went woman.
You better get it right.
I know, I probably got it wrong. Who competed in the weightlifting competition, whatever, of the Olympics. And so it's a man who has transitioned to be a woman who's competing in weightlifting alongside other women. And I watched an interview by the woman, the New Zealander woman, who this person, Laurel Hubbard, is the trans woman, came in and destroyed all of her records, all her world records she had set.
Because she is a man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she was devastated. That's devastating. Like, all of these things that you've worked for your whole life. And then the IOC approved that Laurel could compete in the actual Olympics. Didn't medal. Sucked. Did terrible. But I was just like, and so then I'm reading an article about how the IOC came to the decision that they came to, allowing Laurel to compete. And it's like markers on a testosterone test that they did within 6 months. So in this 6-month window, Laurel had to meet these certain testosterone markers and was allowed to compete. And I was like, so we have reduced womanhood to a testosterone marker, to a blood test. That on top of the NHS in Europe coming out with language about chest feeding instead of breastfeeding, and birthing people instead of mothers. And I just was like, we are erasing women as we know it.
Chest feeding?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, they wanted to call it chest feeding instead of breastfeeding.
Because they're putting babies up to men who are now women's chests?
Yes.
But there's no milk.
Is there? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
That's a very, very big assumption of you to make, Devo.
I'm just saying,
if
I transition to a woman, I could still not produce milk, right?
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm asking for...
I mean, I don't know what science is capable of now. I did watch a video of a trans woman trying to breastfeed and being like, it's not working. And I'm like, because your body wasn't meant to do that. Like...
And they were married to...
I don't know. I can't, Devo. I can't. I don't know. I can't jump through the hoops. Like, I don't know. But that was what brought me to the point of just, the post was, like, we are erasing women as we know it. Where are the feminists? Where are the feminists? That, like, we got Section 9 passed. We got women's sports funded. We got, we've done all this work. Why are you not angry that men are, like, demolishing women's world records in sports? Where are you, like, the male to female transition that's playing soccer along these girls who have played, like, my 7-year-old plays soccer, and she's good at it, and she loves it. But the idea that she could, like, get a college scholarship, which would be awesome.
Let's go.
And then have to play with a man?
Mm.
How is that okay? How is that okay? I don't understand it. That's one thing that I'm like, I like to believe about myself that I'm relatively capable of getting myself there. Like, I can get to, like, okay, I get how you can get there through a series of trapdoors. This one, I'm like, I got nothing. I have no idea.
Yeah, and like, follow me here on this one.
Okay.
I love the movie Yes Man. Have you seen it? The Jim
I've
Carrey.
seen it one time, I think.
Okay, absolutely huge fan of Yes Man.
Okay.
Because I love the philosophy behind it. Like,
Mhm.
say yes to life,
Mhm.
say yes. But I feel like in the opposite way, that is like culture is like, if you're not saying yes to every single idea and thing that is being put out into the world, then you are a horrible person.
100%.
Like, if you say no to anything, then you are evil. You're the villain.
You're unloving.
Right.
And Jesus is loving. Jesus would love these people. Oh, okay, so agreeing and loving are synonymous now.
Right. I mean, yeah.
I don't even agree with my husband 100%. He's saying I don't love him? Like, that makes no sense.
Yeah. So, and if, like you were saying, if you can't agree and like this keeps going on, is the world ever going to get to a point where it's too much? Like what do you think that there will ever be a point where it's not just people like you or me or whatever other like Christian leaders are like stepping up to say, like, speak against this stuff? Do you think there will be a time where the world actually says, okay guys, like maybe we have taken it too far?
Oh, I don't know. I hope so. I pray for that.
Like, yeah, can you think of anything that would make them? Because I mean, like, thinking about a bunch of women in the Olympics all getting beat by transgender like men who have transformed into women, like, I would think that would ruffle a lot of feathers.
Mm-hmm. You would think.
And like U.S.'s women's soccer team, very feminist.
Mm-hmm.
If they got beat by some other team that was all dudes that had transitioned to women.
But I think they're so woke, they'd be like, oh, we got beat, it's okay.
Mm.
Honestly, I feel like everything that happens, I'm like, this is it. This is what's going to unite us. Like Afghanistan. How are we not united about what's happening in Afghanistan? How? How are we not united about that? But we're not. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe we won't ever know. Maybe we won't ever get to that point. No, I think like the left has been more critical of the handling of Afghanistan than I thought they would.
Yeah.
I thought they would be like carrying Biden's water. Like, I thought they would be just going to bat for him. But
Which is awesome.
which is great. I mean, like,
Because it's tough.
But if you're enough of a conspiracy theorist, you're like, but why? What are you up to, CNN? Y'all trying to 25th Amendment this dude? Like, what you doing? Why do you sound rational all of a sudden, CNN?
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. It's like, it keeps me up at night. Rick, what kind of world am I going to hand my kids? Like, shoot, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of these things, people will, I see them on your platform saying, like, don't talk about this. Like, why are you giving your opinion on these things, whether it be Afghanistan or mandates or genders, whatever.
Because it's my Instagram.
Yeah, but it's like they're not complaining about the accounts that are all talking about milk crate challenges right now. But it's like, for some reason, they have to try to put you in this box.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I feel like Christian influencers, it's like, oh, if you're not talking about things of the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, there are those exclusions, and it's typically like funny videos and like lighthearted content.
Right.
So why is it that when you talk real and like get into like the dirt of non-biblical conversations, that people want to have a problem with that?
Oh, I get the, like, why don't you stick to what you think you know comment, like, all the time.
What? Why?
I feel like I'm saying I don't know to a lot of your questions right now. Partially because they're, like, I just can't understand. Like, do you want me to just stay in my corner? You want me to stay in my comfortable, fluffy Bible verse, God is love corner? But, like, Jesus didn't do that. Jesus was involved in politics. Esther was involved in politics. David, Moses. There is a litany of biblical characters who were involved in the political structure of the country and the time that they lived in. And maybe we've gotten where we are today because Christians believe they're not allowed to be involved in the issues of today and in politics. Like, maybe we're where we are today because Christians have fallen back to just being like, it feels like dance monkey dance. Like, do what we expect of you. Put on a conference. Make everybody comfortable. Remind them that Jesus loves them. And, like, stay safe. Like, Jesus wasn't safe. God is not safe. I don't want to be safe. I want to be dangerous for the kingdom. And that got... So I was pre-law. I was poli-sci.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not end up going through and getting my law degree because life changes. And I don't think that I was supposed to. I don't think that's what God had for me. But I do have some knowledge and some ability to, like, I can read a bill and it makes sense. I understand how politics work to an undergrad degree. So, like, maybe I'm using my gifts the way that God intends me to. But they want the whole, you know, like, they want the entire Christian body to look the same. I mean, you would, and I don't say this in, like, a... like, look at me way, but, like, you would be hard-pressed to find another Christian influencer that looks like me right now. That's, like, talking about the hard stuff. You can find political commentators, but very few of them are openly Christian.
Mm.
Or are infusing the Bible and Christian concepts into the conversation of politics. And again, I don't make that, like, I don't say that to make it sound like I'm some, like, great, you know, whatever, but it's necessary. Like, it's needed right now. People are looking for that. They want to understand what's happening in the world. They want to be educated, and they love Jesus a lot. And I just think we have been sold a lie that loving Jesus disqualifies you from these conversations. I think that's bull. I think it's a problem, actually.
Yeah, because it's like, if you're the only one out there saying these things and they haven't found you, which, I mean, the reason why we wanted you on the show is because you are saying these things.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they haven't found you, and all the Christian, let's just not even say Christian, but let's just say people that believe against what the big media is saying,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all just being quiet and they're going about doing, like, their own things, then, like, the average person that's just sitting around, they're just going to, like, hear it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever is being said to them, and they're just going to take it as, oh, well, that is what it is,
Yeah.
and we move forward and we move on. And I think that's a huge disservice. But here you are, like, taking all the burden and getting your DMs filled and having all this hate come at your way. Like, does that have any effect on you, like anxiety, mental health, even physical health?
It can get to a certain point where it does. I do think that there's a degree to which, like, I was built for this. Like, I don't generally care what people think about me. Most of, like, the ugly things that people say rolls right off my shoulders. But it can, and it has gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta take a break. I need to step away for a minute. Especially if they come from my kids. That's just, like, really triggering for me. But I mean, I'm an Enneagram 8, so I kind of don't give a crap.
Mm.
You know, and I have really good boundaries with my social media, and I take frequent breaks because it's a job. Like, social media is my job, and if you have a healthy relationship with your job, you take breaks from it. So, you know. But I want to go back to something that you said. I don't fault the Christian influencers that aren't talking about this stuff. And I think that that's, like, a problem within, like, social media culture, is this, like, weird expectation that, like, followers, quote unquote, will have of the people that they follow. Like, why aren't you talking about Afghanistan? Why aren't you talking about vaccines? Why aren't you talking about masks? And I just, like, I think that's unfair as well. Because there are
100%.
people that just, that's not their wheelhouse. That's not what God equipped them to talk about. Like, in a world that's saturated and inundated with this being just, it feels like all we're thinking about and all we're talking about, I personally appreciate the influencers that I follow that feel like a reprieve from that stuff. That are, like, talking about other things that are important, that are biblical concepts that aren't this stuff. So, you know, I have personal relationships with some huge influencers who are in my DMs, like, I feel like I'm, like, supposed to talk about this, but I don't want to. You do it so well, da da da. And I'm like, like, first of all, I can't tell you how to use it on your platform, but second of all, like, no, like, I talk about this stuff because the Holy Spirit leads me to. If the Holy Spirit's not leading you to talk about this stuff, don't do it, because that's going to go badly. Like, that's going to go really badly, really fast. So, I think that that's enough, like, that's the other side of that coin. Like, are there some that I know feel the same exact way as I do that have bigger platforms than me that I wish would, like, use their platforms and that stuff? Yeah, of course. Like, I think that would be really beneficial to the people that are following them. But cancel culture and the mob are really scary, and if your whole, livelihood is built on Instagram and they come for you, like, it's so complicated, and it's just not like a one-way issue. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear, like, yes, this is how I use my platform, but I don't think that means that other Christian influencers, like, I don't fault them for not. I get that.
Yeah. So then, what was it that made you decide then to go down this path?
I think I just got fed up, honestly. So I was on the internet for a good 2 years before, and had a hard no politics rule through the 2016 election. Like, nothing. I didn't talk about politics at all, And then I just got fed up at some point. I think it was like last summer. Now I'm trying to remember, like, when I really got into it. I think it was last summer when people were talking about people who voted for Trump like they were just these, like, racist, bigoted, transphobic, horrible idiots. And just being like, and I think I had multiple conversations, that's what it was. I had multiple conversations with people who knew I was going to vote for Trump. Now I might really get your podcast news. Who knew I was going to vote for Trump, who were like, how can you do that? Like, how can you love Jesus and vote for this man? And I was like, okay, but, like, what about this policy and what he's done for this segment of the population and da-da-da. And they had no idea. They didn't know a single thing about Trump's policies. And I was like, oh, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. So my foray into politics online started with, yes, he's a pain in the butt. I wish he would shush. I don't think that he should be deplatformed, but I wish somebody, like a social media manager, would have taken over his Twitter. Like, he was crass, and he was just kind of, like, so annoying. But look at his policies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the policies that man put in place positioned America, like, really well for minorities and the majority. And then you had people taking these things that he said completely out of context to make it sound like he was this raging racist, And so I'd be like, okay, tell me why you think Trump is a racist. And they'd be like, well, he called all Mexicans rapists. I was like, no. If you watch the whole clip, he called MS-13, who is a gang out of Mexico made up of drug dealers and rapists, he called them rapists. But they slice that clip up and make it sound like he just called Mexicans,
Context.
Yeah. And so, Biden's whole thing, the whole reason he ran was the good people on both sides thing that he said in Charleston, that Trump was, like, talking about the statue being taken down, and he was like, there were very good people on both sides, and people are like, there were neo-Nazis and skinheads there. He's like, that's not what he was talking about. He was talking about that there were people there protesting the historical context of the statue being taken down, but they sliced it up and made it sound like he was saying neo-Nazis were good people. So anyway, I think that really is where it started for me, was just wanting to educate people on, okay, like, let's put aside his glaring personality flaws and look at, like, policy over personality. And I think I was effective in that, and I got a lot of DMs from people that were like, I was going to vote for Biden, because I also at some point started putting in front of people what Biden actually stood for. Like, have you read the Equality Act? Have you read the Green New Deal? Like, showing people what they were voting for was more than just this, like, sweet old man that you didn't have to worry about his tweets. And so that's really like where it started, and then at that point I'd opened Pandora's box and was like, all right, well, this is what we're doing now.
I mean, I feel like the Pandora's box of politics was open this year with things that I've never heard before. It was like the ballots that are like the voting system that was like fraudulent. I mean, just so many things. But I think that, like, I talk to my friends all the time about just like, okay, well, what's the solution? Like, what can we do here to make this any better? Like, do you get the person to a place and like try to educate them a little bit? Because right now I feel like a lot of it is kind of what you said, of people just like, oh, I didn't know that, oh, I didn't know that, and they just go in and they've been raised either red or they've been raised blue, and they just mark it down. I mean, and that's for the president, let alone the other
Which
people
matters. That stuff matters so much, and people don't think it matters.
Right. And it's just like, oh, well, I was raised on this team, you know. I was raised a Yankees fan, always a Yankees fan. I was raised, I'm a Braves fan.
Oh, okay. That's okay then.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, they kind of bandwagon their team, and I think that, sadly, it works for politics.
100%.
And so I'm like, okay, is the answer to this not just having two, like a bipartisan, like two parties? Because when it's two, it's so easy to just choose this or that. When you have more main options, I think maybe that would be able to, I don't know, help people or like make it harder to decide. I don't know.
You're
honestly,
so much more positive and hopeful than I am.
well, I want to have positivity. So with all of this happening, do you, like, you got a degree. You went to LSU, right? Okay, amazing.
Go Tigers.
Yeah. You guys can actually win national championships. My team cannot. Come on, Indiana Hoosiers.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, it's all right. I love their coach. His like new "Love Everyone" mantra.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, we've got the coach, and the team is like actually making it to bowl games. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
So you go to LSU, you get this degree. I mean, I also got a degree that I'm not using, but what was it for you? Like, for me, it was the vomiting every morning as a teacher and just like having too much anxiety, I think, and like the pressure of being a perfectionist. But first graders, man.
Woof. I have one of those.
Yeah. So like, what made you not just follow your degree and instead go this path?
Oh, I fell in love with a really stupid boy.
Dang.
Yeah. I started dating this guy my freshman year of college, and he was dynamic and I always think of him as like a circus leader personality, just people were drawn to him, and he was also closet abusive. And so we did it for all 4 years of college, and I was getting my pre-law undergrad fully prepared. I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 7 years old, and was gonna go to law school, and somewhere around my sophomore, junior year, this is the stupidest story, I hate this story so much, he decided that he wanted to be a football coach.
Oh, wow.
Collegiate or eventually was NFL level.
That's ironic that we were just talking about
Right,
football.
I know. And so I was really in love with him.
Wait, he's not the coach of Indiana Hoosiers, is he?
Oh my gosh, no, he's not. He didn't even actually go into that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so anyway, fell in love with him. His career path trumped mine, and I've struggled with anxiety and stuff like that since I was a kid, and wasn't medicated or really very stable at all. And so I just kind of was okay, I'll follow you wherever. Thought we would get engaged, the typical Southern Baptist, we'd get engaged right around when we graduated and get married, and coaching was going to be coaching families travel a ton and are just kind of transplanted, and that was just I made my plan him. So didn't graduate with enough of the classes that I needed to go to law school. And then he cheated on me with like a friend of mine and broke up with me for her.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of like, now what?
So you left like what you were planning on doing for him.
Mm-hmm. Made him my plan, and then he made me not his plan. Yeah, it was rough. I mean, you know, like you're like, oh, like I was only 21, like young heartbreak, but it was so much more than just like the loss of a relationship. And I don't regret it. I truly don't. Like I know, like what's that Rascal Flatts song? God bless the broken road.
Yeah.
You know, like whatever.
You are a country girl.
God, yeah, I'm sorry. Deep south, but I don't regret it. I wouldn't change it, but it still sucked. Like hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, any breakup is hard,
Mhm.
and when you find out that you left what you wanted to do, and then he leaves you for who he is doing, I mean that hurts.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I've had that hurt in my life, but you know, you go from being cheated on to finding Jeremy.
Mhm.
How did that happen? Was it like immediate? Was it?
We were
years?
friends already. So Jeremy's
Okay.
my husband, and we had been friends for about a year or so by then. And he knew my ex. Like we all three like knew each other. Jeremy's 7.5 years older than me. So I was 21, and he was like a full-blown adult. I'm a like literal child. And he maybe 2 weeks after that relationship ended, he swooped in and did I just want you to know I'm here for you if you need anybody to talk to.
Solid.
He was playing in the like church softball league and invited me to come to the game, and that was it. Like I would think I was in love with him after our first date.
Why is that the tactic of every man? Just waiting
It's so stereotypical.
in the bushes.
And he loves telling, or when that story is told, because he's just like, oh, yeah. Like, that's exactly what it was. But I mean, you know, like God used him to heal me and heal my heart. And not that he couldn't have done that. I thought I was going to be single. Like, I was fully prepared. Like, I was like, this is going to be a season of singleness. I need to heal from all this bull. Like, 2 weeks later, I'm like, exclusively dating somebody. I was like, okay.
That's quick.
Yeah, we got engaged a year later and got married 5 months after that.
And how long have you guys been together now?
11 years.
In total, 11 years
Mhm.
over all this. Yeah, I was talking to the guys before we started today. I was like, why is it that we only count, like, people always ask, like, how long have you been married?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't ask how long you've been together.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I always ask how long you've been together.
yeah, because it's unfair. Like,
Yeah.
if you've been dating for 5 years and maybe that guy just, like, couldn't pull the trigger, you know, there are those guys out there.
Yes,
If you've only
absolutely.
been married for, like, 6 months, like,
You've been together for
It's like-
almost 6 years.
yeah.
That's
and
a long time.
They say, like, oh, well, how long have you guys been married? 6 months? Be like, oh, so you guys are just figuring it out, you know? Like,
Right, exactly.
But you guys have been together a long time. Like, what's the secret sauce?
Oh. What's the secret sauce? Jesus.
Yeah?
100%. We wouldn't be together if it wasn't for Jesus. We are each other's polar opposite. Completely
What do you, how do you define polar opposite?
fire and ice. Like, he's the chillest, most consistent, steady, unbothered. I mean, he's amazing, but he's so chill. And I'm, like, angry about everything. Always.
You don't seem angry.
Yeah, I hide it well.
Yeah?
I'm the Hulk. You know that scene in the Hulk where Bruce Banner's like, do you want to know my secret? I'm always angry. That's me.
I mean, he is pretty much always angry.
Yeah.
So, okay, Jesus holds you together. Is that like you guys both have amazing spiritual lives, like independently and together? Does that mean that you guys, you know, are like going to church is helping you? Does that mean devotional is helping you? Like, what exactly is it about, like, I mean, because you said you're like fire and ice.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
I think it's a common denominator,
Okay.
right? Like, we both do our best, right? Like, the hope is as a believer that you're looking at other people and seeing them the way that Jesus sees them. That radically changes all of your relationships. So, that forces you to assume the best about somebody, that forces you to see their strengths instead of their weaknesses. That's Jesus. And then that's what our marriage is built on, is we decided, and I wish more people would get married because of this, like we decided we were more dangerous for the kingdom together than apart. That's a really good reason to get married.
I love that.
I think that he's like, Jesus is just he really is everything. Like he's the foundation, he's the reason, he's what we have in common, he's why we do what we do outside of our marriage, outside of our home. Even in the darkest seasons of our marriage, which there have been, like it was Jesus that kept us together, because we knew, like, I really believe, like, Jesus's heart is for the nuclear family. Like, Jesus's heart is for marriage. And honestly, what kept us together when things were really bad was the enemy would love that. Like, the enemy would love for these circumstances to pull us apart and for us to be a statistic, for us to be one more marriage that falls by the wayside. And Jesus's heart is for us to stay together. Mm-hmm. And so we did. And, like, there are obviously caveats to that, like abuse and all that kind of stuff that, like, Jesus hates that stuff. Like, Jesus doesn't want you to stay with somebody that's abusive to honor marriage.
Right.
But I do think that a lot of the Christians have just as high a divorce rate as non. Our divorce rate is exactly the same.
I'm divorced.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's exactly the same. We are no different, and we hold the keys. Mm-hmm. We know the guy that created it. Why are we not better at this?
Yeah. I got a lot of flack in my marriage when, my wife, my ex-wife, had an affair, and I was like trying everything to like fight through it and make it work, and I was getting flack of like, why are you staying, in this?
From her?
No.
Just, from the outside.
Yeah, from other people. Yeah. And I get that, people looking out for me.
That's flesh. That's flesh, being like, why are you fighting for this?
Right.
That's like your justice complex. Right? Like, I've seen God restore and flourish relationships that were impacted by affairs, if both parties wanted it to work.
Right.
Because then, holy hell, what a story. Like, look what God did. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, that's my God. That's my God. That's what my God does. And so, like, I think that's, I don't know. I just think that's such a fleshy, like, response. To be like, ugh. Like, she wronged you, you wronged her. Oh, find that Bible verse for me, please. No, and I get it. I get that sometimes it's irreparable. Like, sometimes it's so broken because of infidelity or because of a lack of faithfulness or because of whatever. And I don't fault people for that. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm up on this high horse, like, God loves marriage, so you should never get divorced. Like, I get it. We're human. The world is broken. But I just wonder if people, like, did fight for their marriages more, what it would look like.
Yeah. I mean, I tried.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that I did everything that I could. But,
yeah.
It's like if both parties aren't in agreement to go forward, then, it's probably just not going to work.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be mutual. Have you and Jeremy had anything in your time together, your marriage, where you thought, like, okay, we like, it's either, fight or flight?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a moment, we hit the 7-year itch real hard.
I'm curious, was that your post about, like, the hardest time in your life? It was, like, July of 2020. I think I wrote it down, or June of 2020. July 2020, most painful season you made a post about. Was that?
No, I think that was the mental breakdown I had earlier this year.
Okay. Well, we can get to that. But, okay, so yeah, what happened with you and Jeremy?
Yeah, so I struggle with anxiety, he struggles with depression. That's a real cute mix. And there was some less than faithful action on a party's part. Nothing crazy, there wasn't like an affair, but one of us went looking for something that we weren't getting from our marriage. which can be a lack of faithfulness.
Okay.
And just like in an emotional sense, you know, like an inappropriate friendship. And then we eventually got to a point where we were like standing at our kitchen counter and I said, I'm getting an apartment. I don't want to do this with you anymore. You suck the life out of every room you're in. It'd be easier to raise these kids without you. I'm done. I think he had gotten mad at me because my car was messy. He's like he's not OCD, but cleanliness is important to him. And he was not in that season, and I'm not like throwing him under the bus, like we've talked about this probably before, like he was not in that season willing to like give grace. He had like no capacity to give anybody any grace. And so I remember being like, okay, you drive a 1 and 3 year old around all day, every day, and show me your spotless truck kind of thing. And he had like had some retort, and I was like, I'm done doing this with you. I'm done, I'm getting an apartment. And that was like a huge wake-up call for him. And I was not innocent in that situation, but I felt like I was the only one doing CPR on a dying marriage. Like I was trying to resuscitate it, and he was depressed, and he was checked out, and he was just not involved. And so I was just like, this would be easier without you. And that was like a huge wake-up call for him. And he like went to the doctor and got diagnosed with a few things and got medicated, and we started going to counseling together. And so, I mean, it took me being like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this with you, for us to turn it around. But we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it, looking back, was there anything leading up to that you can see now? Like, just for like anybody listening or watching this, of like, because I think that the little things creep up on us.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
the devil's plan is not to send a demon into our life and just be like, you know what, today's an affair day. Like yesterday everyone was happy,
right.
Everything was great.
Right.
Let's just do an affair today.
Right.
And I think, so like, was there anything leading up to that you see?
Yeah, I didn't really like him very much. I realized I didn't really like him. I did not enjoy him. We had become like ships passing in the night. Like, you do this, I do this, We weren't really having sex a whole lot, which I think is really important in a marriage.
Do you think sex should be like a, hey, twice a week kind of thing?
I don't think it's fair to put like numerical values on that, because I think every couple's different.
Yeah.
But I think if you're not prioritizing sex in your marriage is going to suffer.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there were like I just remember realizing I didn't like him. And I don't think he liked me very much either. Like, and we've said that. Like, I loved him because he was the father of my kids, and we'd been together for 8 years by then, and we had built this life together. And there were also, I think we sometimes undervalued there were really stressful outside, circumstances, like there were things outside of just our marriage, like life continues, right? Like life is happening all around you, and there were some difficult things happening in that season that kind of like applied more pressure to an already pressure cooker situation. But I can't think of anything that I look back and I'm like, that thing. I think it was just, we had become ambivalent about one another. And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Were you guys the type that were like going on dates? I mean, because once you had kids, I'm sure it was very tough. Did you feel like having kids maybe was like part of that, of like all the focus went into like,
no, we've never been like that. Like we've never prioritized our kids over our marriage. Even when it was rough, we weren't prioritizing our kids over our marriage. I think it was a mix of like mental health issues. We weren't making an effort. We had become ambivalent. And I think like we also undervalue, I think like the enemy was attacking our marriage, because the enemy hates Christian marriages. You know, and that's actually, Jeremy was the one that really like became aware, like awake to that, and was like, this is the enemy. Like, this is the enemy trying to take us down. There's no reason that we should be here. Like we're built on solid ground. Like, he's feeding us lies about one another and we're believing them, kind of thing. And through like going to counseling and starting to really make an effort with one another, we were able to and medication and counseling and, you know, like that kind of stuff, we were able to. And now, like, we jokingly talk about, we've always done this, we've always jokingly talked about our marriage as a video game. Neither of us play video games.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
But we talk about it like levels. Like, dude, level up. You know, like we've leveled up. And like we're at that, but sometimes you like level down. Like sometimes you die. You know, like and sometimes you're like, like so. I mean, we're at the highest level of the marriage video game that we've ever been right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What video game are you thinking? Is this Mario?
It's Mario.
Yeah.
In my head, it's Mario, definitely.
Man, next time you come back to Orlando, you'll have to go to Super Nintendo Land when it opens. It's like the new...
No, when I come back to Orlando, I gotta take my kids to Peppa Pig Land. I have to.
I can't believe that's a thing.
I can't either.
Honestly.
Me neither.
Okay, so counseling, being diagnosed and medicated, figuring out like, okay, there is a problem here, like, acknowledging there is a problem. Was the Enneagram also a help in that? I know that you talk about the Enneagram. I know that I'm a 7. I know that Ashley's a 3. My dad joke is that if you put 7 and 3 together, we're a perfect 10.
You did it right that time.
I know, kindergarten math, right? But yeah, I'm curious, like, because that's as far as my Enneagram knowledge goes, is just knowing my number, knowing hers. Mm-hmm. Like, pretend you're giving your TED Talk on Enneagram, like, teach me.
Yeah.
What is it about it that makes you like love it so much? You know, like it's your ride or die. If we go Fast and Furious, and like what is it that makes it work to help relationships?
I say the Enneagram helped save my marriage. Like it was a tool that God used to help save my marriage. Mm-hmm. So I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, and Jeremy's a 1.
What's that mean?
So the 8 is the challenger, and the 1 is the perfectionist. Again, 2 of the most opposite numbers.
Fire and ice.
Fire and ice. But basically, I mean, if people that aren't aware of what the Enneagram is, which would be shocking because most people know what it is now, but the Enneagram is
just me.
Just you know what the Enneagram is.
Yeah.
I'm saying like people that don't know what the Enneagram is.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like a personality typing tool, like Myers-Briggs or the color system. There's 9 types, and at any given time, you are connected to 5 types. So people say that the Enneagram like puts you in a box, but I think the Enneagram actually lets you out of the box. So as an 8, I am connected to my 7 and 9 wing. So that's 3 types right there. And then you have a line of health and you have a line of stress. So when I'm stressed, I go to a 5, and when I'm healthy, I go to a 2. So you are not like bound by your 1, 8, and like this is all you've got. I'm connected to 5 numbers on the Enneagram at any given time. I don't know what yours are. I want to look them up though. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Like, what do you go to?
So is it like every 7 is going to have these 2 same wings?
Yes. So your wings are on either side of your number. The Enneagram is a circle.
Okay. And then when I'm happy and when I'm
when you're
happy,
healthy. So you grow towards a 5, which is what I stress towards. So the 5 is the intellectual. It's like the very like researchy. I want to understand how things work, why they do what they do.
That's when I'm my healthiest.
That's when you're when you're healthy, and then you stress towards a 1. So when you're stressed, you go towards like you could become very perfectionistic and critical and
Oh my gosh, that's
it's
so
wild,
true.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like for me as an 8, like when I'm healthy, I go towards a 2, and I become more caring. I become more empathetic. I always say like empathy is the biggest thing that I struggle with. Like I'm like, you're good. Come on, just keep going. But when I'm growing, I
rub some dirt on it.
Exactly. I'm like I want to help people and like serve people. And when I'm stressed, so I mistype as a 5. Oh, because I'm just kind of a stressy 8. Is where like my research brain comes in, which is where like a lot of my like Instagram content is very data and statistic and study based. That's my like 5.
So you're always stressed.
No, I mean kind of, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now I know yours and I know mine, but like how does it help in a relationship? Because like knowing that is cool, but like big whoop.
Right. Okay, so think about how that helps you understand yourself a little bit better. you're like, oh, like when I get really critical and perfectionistic, I'm not functioning in my healthiest self. So flip that and look at that from Ashley's. Like you learn all of that about Ashley's, about as a 3. And then you can see that in them, and then you can understand that, like, so for me with Jeremy's a 1. So he is critical and perfectionistic and very like and I'm like blah, right, like naturally fairly like messy, and I mean I'm organized because if I'm not I will like just lose everything, but I'm not like I'm gonna say I'm not a clean person. That sounds terrible. I'm just like not like there's more important things to me than the laundry being folded and put away or like the dishes being done. Those are things that are very important to him. But if I understand a 1 and I understand why that's important to them, because the Enneagram tells you why you do what you do, not just what you do, then I can look at him and say, you're not, can I say dick?
You just did.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can edit it out if I just said it. You're not just being a dick about the dishwasher. It's part of your wiring that things need to be right and just and done the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helped me understand him and vice versa. So he was able to look at 8s and be like, you're not just picking a fight. It's just how you talk. You just are like expressive and loud. Or I have a betrayal complex. I always think, like, I struggle with believing people are always going to betray me. It goes back to your like childhood wound, which is a part of the Enneagram. So when he sees me like bucking up to something, now he knows me well enough to know I'm not picking a fight. I'm trying to protect myself from potentially being wounded by a betrayal. So it just gives you like, to me, it put words to things I couldn't say about myself. So the Road Back to You is a book by Ian Morgan Crone, and it's kind of the like, so sacrilegious, but like the Bible of the Enneagram. And it, like the first page of each chapter is you might be a 1 if, and it's like a checklist. And that helps you find your type as well as like reading the chapters, but I couldn't get him to read the whole book because he's not a reader. But I was able to get him to like read 1 and read 8. And actually, funny story, I read him like the first page, like you might be an 8 if, and like read it off. And he was like, oh, that's really good. What'd you write that for? Like he thought it was so me that he thought I'd like written it for a blog post or something. So
I love that you're spoon feeding him this. You're like, oh, you don't want to learn about the Enneagram?
I will literally read it to you. Oh my gosh. But I did get him to read the 2 chapters.
Okay.
He did. He read 1 and he read 8.
He read them, or you read them to him?
No, he actually read them. I didn't
You
read the whole
saw
chapters.
him read them?
I saw him read them. And I listened to him say things that I knew he could only know if he read them. But
I was just joking about you watching it, but you literally like watched him read this? Like,
no.
Okay.
No, I just know he read it.
But he's saying stuff, and it's like, okay, he gets it.
You get it, yeah. And it gave us the tools to understand one another that I don't know that we would have found otherwise.
So you would recommend like every marriage, every relationship, I mean maybe not if like it's like little kids dating or something like in middle school, but like you're saying like any serious relationship, if they want to invest in themselves, invest in the other person, like know thyself, know who they're with, and like best be able to love them. I mean, it's like the 5 love languages, but like
exactly,
like even
they go in they work 5 love languages and Enneagram work very well together. It also helps me as a parent because you can type your kids by the time they're like 4 or 5 usually.
Interesting.
So like Elliot's an 8, like I am, which is interesting, and then Pacey is a 4. And so it gives you empathy and grace for your kids as well. These little people that have big emotions that they don't yet have a language to communicate. And I feel like I have to give like a necessary like caveat that people think the Enneagram is evil because it has like some potential maybe ties to the occult. It doesn't. And also like I just believe that God can redeem and use anything. But I always feel like giving the necessary disclaimer because people are always like, did you know? And I'm like, yes, I knew. I got it. Thank you. So.
I'm so excited for every one of our videos that's going to have a disclaimer in front of it of like, just so you are aware, COVID this. Just so you are aware, Enneagram is not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I bring the banners.
No, I think you're going to bring the trolls, like the commenters that are just going to be like, she's not even a real Christian.
No. Harry Potter, the Enneagram, I almost got a divorce. I like don't have the vaccine. Definitely, I am Satan incarnate.
I mean, I feel like I am a lot of those things as well. I mean, I'm not almost divorced, like I am divorced, so, man, yikes. Okay, so did learning about the Enneagram help you to understand why your husband does 30-minute poops?
No.
No?
I still have not figured that out. It's not just my husband.
It was the funniest post. I'm like going through it. It's all this serious stuff. And it's like, my husband does 30-minute poops.
Yeah.
And I was like, Ashley, I got to show this to you. And she was like, so he's you.
Yeah.
What is he?
Man.
Do you know what is he
why
doing
are you
there?
asking me?
Do you know what he does
What
there?
are you doing in there? Are you okay? Do you need to see a doctor?
Look.
I'm so confused, like, genuinely. And,
Okay.
like, when we're in a rush, I'm like, bruh, I don't have time for one of your 30-minute poops. Like, we gotta go. Make it a quickie, please.
Does he ever say, like, oh, you know, I'm just going to go to the bathroom real quick, but then it's always 30 minutes? Or does he...
No, if it's something he wants to get, like, if it's something he needs to importantly get to, then it's not a 30-minute poop.
Oh, so it's not like a anatomical thing
No,
that's happening.
Is it an anatomical thing for you? Are you okay?
In a way, yes and no. Like, I think that I trained myself as a kid. That I was not planning on going this deep, but here we are, okay?
Here we are, yeah.
I'll just let the crap out here. So, as a kid, my reading time was always when I went to the bathroom, and I would read the old Game Pro magazines. Like, I was a big like video game
Is
Nintendo
this you now?
nerd.
Are you going through puberty now?
I think so. And so I'm like sitting, you know, and I think I just trained myself, like, because I would usually like read a certain amount of articles that would be like a half an hour. So like that would be my reading time. It would kind of, and so I just developed that reading magazine.
It takes you that long to poop?
To read the articles.
Are you pooping the whole time?
No.
What are you doing?
Okay. I'll tell my story, but I also want to hear what you think Jeremy's doing.
I think he's watching videos on TikTok the whhole time and taking a break from his family.
That's it.
That's what it is.
That's what I was thinking. Like taking a break. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. Where can I hide? Oh, bathroom. Let's stink this up, and no one's gonna come around. Like, okay, so for me, it's a couple things. Sorry, this is about to be TMI.
I don't care.
But number one, reading.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I feel like if I have sat there and I've done the deed, I've dropped the deuce, taken the Browns to the Super Bowl, and I immediately like get up, like wrap it up and get up, I feel like I'm unclean. Like I feel like I need.
Take a shower.
I think I need a bidet. Like that maybe would help.
They make ones that like sit on top of your toilet.
Oh, I know. My friend, one of my
Get
best
a bidet
friends,
then.
Timmy,
I
is
will
like
buy. I'm gonna Amazon a bidet to my house. If that is gonna fix the problem.
I would laugh if you got a bidet and he's like 7-minute poops. Like if
I'm
that
gonna
fixes
ask
everything.
him.
Because I do. I feel like I need to sit there and just kind of like let it.
I do not
I mean, I'm
understand
also
that.
on my phone, and I also do.
Right.
I do reading, but it is a time for me to like meditate and like relax. And I'm sure I'm not the only one
No,
here.
I know you're not the only one, and that's why I'm like, what? Go for a run. Like, go. What? Why is sitting on the toilet what y'all have decided to do with your time?
Don't judge us.
I am judging you
How
because
dare you.
I'm the one that's been with our children all day, and you get home and take a 30-minute poop. Absolutely not.
So what is your way to? Because
I
if
go
like
for a run, or I take a bath, or I lay in a hammock and read a book. I don't sit there and like smell my own poop for 30 minutes.
well, no, you flush after you.
You
have,
just said you stink up the whole room.
I was saying for Jeremy maybe to keep
Okay.
the kids and everyone. I'm not trying to keep anyone away. Like if Ashley wanted to walk in, no, that would be weird. Sorry, no.
That took a turn.
But that took a turd. Is that what you said?
Turn. Took a turn.
Okay. Anyways, speaking about crap, one of the things that I know that you have a belief in, like your philosophy, and I've heard you say, yeah, that's going to be a big turd right here, or turn. You said something, and I heard in a video, and it kind of contradicted everything that I had like been taught in the church, like growing up, of like it's okay to talk crap about your spouse. It's okay to like talk crap about your significant other, and not like talk.
You saw that in my video?
Yeah, not necessarily talk crap, but just like be critical of them, to friends, to like close people. You're talking about.
Okay, you're making generalizations, and don't feel like that's what I said.
Yeah, sorry. Let me wrap this up. So, I had always been taught like don't ever say anything negative about your significant other.
Right.
Don't ever talk badly about them in public. Like everything bad that's happening in your relationship, anything negative, you internalize. You keep it within your house.
Right.
You protect the tribe.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So. Yeah, I'm not saying that you're going out and just like talk crap to about your spouse.
On a podcast, right?
Yeah. But you have like a middle ground.
Yeah.
Between like going out, like I said, and just trashing your significant other, and then just not saying anything to anyone, and then like holding that in. Yeah. And then it probably is going to explode.
It will.
So yeah, what is that middle ground?
I think that because I hate like husband bashing culture.
Yeah.
Hate it.
And I'm sorry that it was sounding like I was putting
I was
on
like,
you.
I don't know, what are you talking about? No, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. I hate that though. I hate like the stereotype of a bunch of women sitting around at happy hour and just talking about how terrible their husbands are. I hate that because that permeates into what you believe about your husband and what you believe about your marriage. But I do think that I hate the other side of it as well, where you never, ever, 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 ever say anything negative about your husband ever, because like you said, you internalize that stuff and then you become bitter. And then you take it out on your husband because you haven't talked to anybody about it. And like, yes, obviously your spouse is the most ideal person to have those conversations with. But I think we have to have trusted individuals who have proven their weight over years, who are invested, who are for your marriage, that you can go to and say, oh my God, he takes 30-minute poops when the kids are making me nuts. I can't take this anymore. Or something more serious that, like, I think it takes work to create relationships that's safe, that, like, I have, like, 2 friends like that I know that I could be like, I don't talk about this. My husband's, has struggled with being, like, borderline workaholic. He works a ton by choice. I struggle with that sometimes for our family dynamic because our family dynamic is so important to both of us. And I have like 2 people in my life that have been my friends for years that love Jeremy and are for him, that I can go to and say, I'm really frustrated about this, XYZ, and they're going to, if necessary, validate that sucks. I can get how that's frustrating. But let's remember, like, let's try to assume the best about Jeremy. He's doing this because he loves your family, because he wants to go to bat for y'all, because he wants to provide you with the best life he can. Okay, what can we do about it? How can you have a conversation about it? What do you think God is thinking about this? Not somebody that's going to bash him, because I don't ever want to enter those conversations bashing him. I want to enter those conversations, I'm struggling. Because it's human relationships. Like, just because it's a marriage and it's founded on Jesus doesn't mean there's not going to be struggles. But I do think it's really important to have like a few trusted people that you can go to and say, like, this is happening, I'm struggling. And even if they don't have advice, like just saying it out loud to somebody can be like really beneficial. But the hope is that they can come back and say, like, assume the best about your spouse and kind of like help, maybe, like outside perspective, can't see the forest for the trees, like you're so deep in it, you're like, I don't even know what to do, I don't even know what to say. And they can kind of help give you some guidance there. I think is like a really good middle ground between like bashing your husband and never saying a negative thing.
Yeah. Are these 2 girls people from the church that you've met through like a small group? Are they just like lifelong friends?
Yeah, one of them's a lifelong friend, the other one I met at church. We just met at church. I don't even remember how. But yeah, they're just my people, you know.
And you come together looking for a solution, or like
Exactly.
looking for a way to like figure this out, fix it,
Yeah.
instead of just like, I'm gonna say this negative thing, you're gonna stack on top of it,
Yes.
and then we're gonna get to the point where when I go home, I'm gonna be even more mad,
Exactly.
and like everything's gonna be so much more exaggerated about the things that I am mad about,
Yep.
or that I hate, that makes me angry.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, that is very different. And I think, like, you know, another thing you talk about is teasing. Like teasing your significant other. Do you guys tease a lot? Is that like a
We don't
thing?
anymore. We used to.
Oh, what happened?
So I am inherently like sarcasm is a second language
Oh gosh.
for me.
Were you sarcastic in the bedroom?
Probably.
Oh no.
But I don't think that's what I don't think that's what it boiled down to. But it got to a point where he always thought I was mad at him because I was just being sarcastic when I really wasn't mad. And so I remember him being like, I either need us to like you to like tamper down the sarcasm or us to have like a hand signal like that you're being sarcastic because I can't tell.
Like Dr. Evil.
Right, exactly. Like I need you to like give me something.
Wait, well, did you have a signal?
No, I ended up
Okay.
learning how to not be so sarcastic all the time. I mean, sarcasm is a defense mechanism, if we're being like really therapeutically honest about it. And so, no, I mean, we pick and like I always say he's closet funny. Like he is the funniest person I know, but you would never know that for meeting him,
Mhm.
like just outwardly. And so yeah, I mean, we definitely like mess with one another and joke around and stuff, but I don't think we like pick on one another or tease or like are very sarcastic with each other. Not consistently. But I mean, he's so funny.
I'm curious, like maybe one of the biggest like teases or maybe pranks that you guys have done, because like Ashley and I, because I can relate a little bit. Like in the beginning of our relationship, she pulled one of the most ultimate pranks on me.
Oh my gosh.
So my past has been just like sprinkled with horrible hairstyles.
Okay.
So she went through my Facebook and just found a ton of old pictures of me with like horrible hair.
Uh-huh.
So the first prank is we're literally sitting at breakfast eating, and like her phone lights up, and I just kind of like glanced over and I saw that her background was me with my like emo scene haircut, and I was like, wait, what is this? And she just like cracking up. Okay, so that's step one.
That's good.
Step two took it to the next level. So this is pre-COVID. I've got my house. She's got her apartment. I'm driving over. I'm hanging out at her apartment. And while I'm there, I open up the fridge. And I've been like hanging out there for like hours at this point. Okay, and I open up the fridge and I look over and I see a photo of me when I had a mullet. And I was like, what is this? And I'm like, babe, what is this? And she's just cracking up laughing. And I just thought, oh, you like just hit a photo of me with my mullet. No, I am now later putting something in the microwave, and I open it up and there's a picture of me with blonde Super Saiyan hair. And I'm like, what is this? And she's cracking up again. And now I'm thinking, how many of these are there? So going back to the 30-minute poop, I go into her bathroom, lift up the toilet seat. What is in the toilet? A picture of me with this crazy hairstyle from back when I was like a drummer of a punk rock band. And I thought I found them all. Months later,
Oh my gosh.
my roommate, we're leaving a grocery store, and he was like, Debo, what's on your license plate? And I'm like, nothing. And he was like, no, look. And I looked down, and she had cut out this little perfect circle to go over the orange for the Florida license plate of me wearing this rainbow-colored sweater, like posing like this. And I was like, it makes sense. Cops have been telling me for 2 months straight, probably trying to figure out what's going on my license plate.
Wow. That's impressive.
Like, that's pretty good. I don't know if that's teasing as much as that's just a prank. Yeah. Do you guys do any of that? Or?
We're not really big prankers.
Okay.
I wish we were, because it's a great story.
Do you have like an ultimate story like from your history that's like, this is one of the craziest stories? The story that you would like tell everyone about you and Jeremy?
It's more like, so he does nothing like that. He does a really funny impression of me. And there was one time where he was in the shower doing it. I don't even remember what it was about, but he was doing this, like, I mean, I was crying, I was laughing so hard, impression of me. And I recorded, like, the floor, but so you could hear him, like, recorded the whole thing and put it on Instagram. And it was, like, at the time, like, one of my most liked posts. And I can't remember what he was talking about, but he just talking about, I think he was talking about, so I'm in his phone as Bull, like Bull in a China Shop, B-U-L-L,
Mm-hmm.
and he calls me Bull, because I am a Bull in a China Shop, 100%. And I think he was talking about, like, oh, I don't really care, I just kind of do what I want, and then, you know, people get upset, and then, no, I don't care, and I just kind of, like, oh, there's a wall, I'm gonna go through it, like, he was, like, giving this, like, just, like, meandering dialogue of, like, what goes on in my mind, and he does that all, like, his impression of me is hilarious, and he'll do it in front of my friends, and my friends are like, oh my god, that is what your brain sounds like, isn't it? It's like, more like what my brain sounds like, but no, we're not really, like, I don't think we've ever, I came from a pranking family,
Okay.
but he and I don't really do that.
Any good pranks from your family?
Okay, so my sister and I my mom is really, like, jumpy. Like, I mean, like, you put a cup down really hard, she's like, oh. Like, she's just jumpy.
Oh, man.
And so we get her a lot. I think our best one was, we go to Gatlinburg every year, like, as a family.
Love it.
And you know, they don't really do it anymore, but, like, the thing that you would, like, pull, like, the spray head that you would pull out, like, it wasn't a part of the faucet, it was, like, a separate thing for the sink.
Yeah.
So we would rubber band that. So when you would turn it, it would spray you.
Amazing.
And we would, like, just kept putting the rubber band on. Like, she'd be like, oh, girls! And she'd take it off, and then, like, an hour later, we would put it back on, and she wouldn't think to check it. And so we just, like, all day long spray her, or, I mean, my parents pranked us. Like, I would get in bed, and, like, there'd be shaving cream under my pillow, or, like, the plastic wrap over the toilet when you go pee. And then it's like, just goes everywhere.
That's a great one.
That's a great one.
It's hard to do on girls, though, because you, like, sit down and you feel it, right?
Not if it's, like, under the toilet seat.
Oh.
You do it, like, on the toilet bowl, and then you put the seat down. Yeah.
What does that do when you sit?
It goes everywhere.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, you're sitting on top. Never mind. I don't know.
It just goes everywhere.
Because I've only seen it from...
Why have we talked about toilets so much in this interview?
That's going to be the blooper reel for you.
Perfect. Perfect. Great. That's awesome.
No.
Yeah.
I think that, like, pranks and teasing and, like, all of that, like, you don't do that to someone you just met. Like, I didn't show up at Disney Springs and, like, tease you or prank you, or at least I hope I didn't.
No.
I sent you to get a Dole Whip, which I thought was, like,
That was
the
great.
opposite.
That was my first ever Dole Whip. It was so good.
I did realize that I forgot to tell you a very important detail, which is the best Dole Whip is the swirl with pineapple and vanilla.
Oh.
But I'm sorry, so I halfway pranked you.
Wow. Yeah.
But
That was on purpose, I can tell.
Yeah.
You thought that out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, like, I think that you have to build something that you call relational equity with a person before you can get that comfortable with them. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that relational equity and just, like, how you and Jeremy have developed that, or like, what that is for people?
Yeah, I think of a lot of the time, I don't think of relational equity necessarily in terms of pranking usually, and more in terms of, like, having difficult conversations or speaking into somebody's life. But you earn, like, equity is earned, right? Like, you earn that balance. Like, if we want to stick with the financial analogy, like, you're putting in, right? Like, you're making investments into this person. You're showing them that you care about them, that you're for them, that you're there for them. And I think of that as, like, you know, you navigate difficult seasons, or you show up for them when things are hard. Like, that's deposits into like this relational bank so that when you go to make a withdrawal of, hey, I love you, but it kind of seems like you're struggling with this sin, and like I love you too much to let you keep doing that, and like, or hey, I love you, but like this thing that you said the other day, like it really hurt me and it stuck with me, like something that's pulling out of someone, not putting into them. You've built up currency to be able to take that withdrawal, you know. And so think about it, I think about it a lot of times in terms of the internet. People like try to hold me responsible or accountable online that have not ever invested in me. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to withdraw from a zero balance. I don't trust you. I don't know you. You have never done anything to make me believe that you are for me or that you love me. But you're trying to tell me that I need to like do this a certain way, or I need to apologize for something, or I need to, you know, not have done this. Like, and that's like an internet conversation. Like, we need to believe that people on the internet are surrounded by people that will do that for them in real life and not try to do that for people we don't know on the internet. But even in like just real life relationships, you know, like that's like somebody that you go to church with walking up to you that you've never talked to and saying, I see this issue in your life and I think you should change it. How are you going to respond to that?
Your shoulders are showing.
Exactly. Your shoulders are showing, or your shorts are too short, or I didn't see you lifting your hands in worship, or I haven't seen you in a couple Sundays. Like, or something on the street. Like, you haven't built the relational equity to have any kind of difficult conversation with me. And that's like some kind of weird, like we think we're privileged. Like we think we can do whatever we want and have whatever conversations we want with people when we like haven't earned the right, you know? And so I think that very much goes for marriage. If you're only pulling out of your spouse by like telling them what you need from them or what they're doing wrong or how they could have done this better, what are you putting, like, are you putting anything in to replace that?
No, wow.
I mean, in our hardest season, we weren't. We were just being very critical of one another and telling each other what we needed and what they weren't doing and how they were doing it wrong, and never replacing it with like, thank you, or like, you're a great dad, or the way you showed up for this was so helpful, you know? And so I think that's like that spans far beyond just marriage.
Yeah, there's so many thoughts while you're talking about that. Number one, the financial analogy is perfect because literally when you go into the negative financially, it's red. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that when you are at a zero relational equity with someone and they say something, it makes you see red.
Yeah.
So, first of all, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. You did that. But the second thing, so I'm thinking, okay, if I say something to someone, family member, someone I'm in a relationship, a friend, in the beginning of our relationship that might upset them, that might like hurt their feelings, but then like 5 years later I say it after I've built that relational equity, it doesn't hit as hard.
Exactly.
And like, I hope that people, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways for me when I heard that and that concept, because I was like, man, that's so true and that's so good, is that you can build such a relational equity with someone that you might slip up. I mean, I am a loose cannon with this mouth of mine, and I will say the dumbest things. Yeah. The other day I had to apologize because we're talking about Halloween costumes, and I had a huge mustache at the time, and they were like, you should be Ted Lasso. I was like, oh, that'd be great. And then I was like, wait, Ted Lasso's not like with someone, so I'm thinking of a costume for Ashley. Yeah. And I'm like, well, who could she be as my partner? And I'm like, oh, you could be the dog, because that's the mascot of the team. I know, that was her reaction too. Not very happy, but it's like, I think if I would have said that, in the beginning, there wouldn't be a relationship.
100%.
And I'm sure, I hope that in 5 years, if I say that, she's just like,
you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because, it was embarrassing because we're in front of our friends, And I'm not thinking that.
But so that's another important part of it as well, is assuming the best about the person that you're with.
Right.
Which is hard. Really hard, especially I think for certain personality types. So like in that moment, like she can choose to be like, he just called me a dog. Or she can choose to think he's an idiot, he's a man, he doesn't think before he talks. And let it go. You know? So there's two sides to that. The relational equity, yes, but also the like, he's not calling me a dog. We wouldn't be engaged if he thought I was a dog. You know?
Yeah, idiot for sure. But I guess that just comes with being a man sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that she like was almost so angry that I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go back home and like go to bed angry. I'm like, so on the ride home, I'm apologizing and like trying to explain how there it is again. What
Are you okay?
what is happening? I think it's every time I say something that God is like, you shouldn't be saying that.
Shush.
Like, yeah. But anyways, I was like, okay, because I'm always trying, once again, the church has taught us, don't go to bed angry. So it's like, I got to solve this before our head hits the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that you are like, nah, honey, I'm good. It's
Andy Grammer.
You're like, it's okay to go to
Yeah.
bed angry.
Yeah.
It's pretty controversial.
Is it?
I would say with what, like, any marital like church advice,
Mm-hmm.
that I've been given, or like conferences that I went to.
Yeah.
That's like one of the big things they preach.
It is, yeah. And it's like, it's because there's a Bible verse that says, like, let not the sun go down on your anger. And we take everything from the Bible so literally. We're like, the sun's going down. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. And I think, like, God created us as more complex, multifaceted individuals than, like, to measure our emotions by the sun. But that's, like, my least favorite marriage advice is don't go to bed angry. Because, and it's just dependent on different personality types, but I can tell you that for Jeremy and I, when one or both of us are angry, we don't try to like solve conflict when we're angry because it gets ugly, like fast. Like I say things I don't mean. He says things he don't mean. He says things he doesn't mean. And it goes sideways so fast. And in the early years of our marriage, a lot of our biggest fights were because we were like, we're not going to go to bed angry. Like, we're going to figure this out right now. Don't walk away from me. No, we're going to talk about this. And the other person's like, if I talk to you about this right now, I'm going to rip you apart. Like, I'm just going to decimate you right now. And so now, like 11 years later, like, yeah, there are times we go to bed and we're like not overly thrilled with one another. And like, he's not my favorite person on the planet, but like what, it's like that. Don't go to sleep or don't go to bed angry is like in direct opposition with sleep on it. Like, we tell people to sleep on it all the time. Like, why don't you sleep on it, think about it, don't say anything you don't mean, don't make a rash decision. But when you're married, you should make all the rash decisions and just like get it all out there before you go to bed. And so half the time, like more than half the time, we still kiss each other goodnight, we still sleep in the same bed, we're just not like really super happy with each other. And we wake up in the morning, and yeah, sometimes it's still like, okay, like this was really hurtful, I'm still really upset about this, we need to talk about this. But sometimes it's like, that really wasn't that big of a deal. I was kind of blowing that out of proportion, my bad. I'm sorry, I love you. And we move on. And so I think like like you were saying, from the church, and I think like culture does that too, like don't go to bed angry. Like I think we've put a lot of pressure on ourselves in that, when the reality is sometimes the best thing you can do is just go to bed angry and sleep on it.
You're like, I'm about to start a fight and then immediately go to sleep.
No, don't be dumb. Like, don't do that. But
it's the 1-2 combo.
Right. Just kidding. Good night. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
You're saying this is like if it's getting close to bedtime. You're not saying like if we get in an argument midday and it's like 8 hours before bedtime, we shouldn't just like not try to figure this thing out.
I mean, I don't think you can get like too in the weeds about the specifics of it. I think like, yeah, there have been times where, well, okay, to be fair, very specific to our situation, we don't really talk a lot during the day because of the way my husband works. Like, he's just not really available. So a lot of the time, our only time to argue is in the afternoon. Like, our only time to get annoyed with one another is in the afternoon. I mean, but yeah, I think there have been times where we've gone to bed annoyed with one another multiple nights in a row because we like couldn't get on the same page about something, or we were struggling with something, or we were frustrated with each other, and it just like I think it comes down to like me trusting him and him trusting me. When I'm ready to talk about it, I'll let you know, and we'll talk about it. And it doesn't have to be like we've got forever. And no, I don't want to like stay angry with you for months or weeks at a time, but like sometimes there's like the issue is more complex than let's just sit down and talk about it and figure it out. Like sometimes like I need to talk to God. I need to figure out what, like, am I wrong? Am I looking at this the wrong way? Am I perceiving something? Am I putting words in your mouth? Like, I just think that marital advice, I just think it like it goes against human nature, where it goes against like biblical knowledge of like slow to speak, you know, like let everyone be slow to speak and slow to anger. Well, if I need a minute to think about this before we talk about it, like, why can't I have that? I need to take my earrings out.
Yeah, you're good.
They're hurting my ears under those headphones.
Yeah, I always have to take my gauges out, you know, when I...
Do you have gauges?
No,
Oh.
I always wanted to have gauges.
You seem like the type.
I had one earring when I was a kid, and I lost it at Holiday World in the water park, so I'm sure some kid stepped right on it and just, like, right in his foot. But I was that kid that, like, didn't want to tell my parents because I remember,
That
like...
you lost your earring?
Yeah, I didn't want to, like, tell them, so I, like, remember, like, you know, just, like, kind of trying to hide my earlobe for, like, years. And it was like
awesome.
Years later, my mom was like, "Wait a second, didn't you have an earring in there?" Anyways,
Wow.
yeah, I think that what you talking about, that having that relational equity allows each other to trust that,
Right.
hey, we're not going to be upset forever. We're not going to always be mad at each other.
Yeah.
But it is crazy to think that like all of this is going on with parents, and then like the kids typically don't know like anything that's going on. Like I grew up thinking like so many like perfect thoughts about, you know, my parents. It's like they can't do any wrong. They're always just like so perfect. There's no mistakes. And I think that, you know, you talk about like being able to apologize to your kids and that being healthy because it kind of, first of all, it takes off a huge burden
Yes.
for the parents to think that they have to put on this perfect act and act like there's no imperfections going on.
Yeah.
But it's also important because I struggle with apologizing like a lot of people do.
Because it wasn't modeled for you.
And that's what I wonder.
Yeah. I think it's so important. I think it's one of the most important parts of being a parent is being able to apologize to your kids and also apologizing to other people in front of your kids. I apologize to my kids relatively often if they're making me nuts and it's completely warranted that I pop off and I'm like, oh my God, stop. Like, y'all stop yelling, stop fighting. Oh my gosh, I can't take it. I will usually like calm down and be like, I'm sorry, I freaked out. You guys have to quit. You know, like I could have handled that better, but I wasn't wrong. Like y'all are also being the worst, you know? So because like, I think it removes a barrier that exists between parents and kids of that like human element, you know, like I think we want our kids to think we're great. We want our kids to look up to us. We want our, you know, like that's the hope. But at the same time, I want my kids to know that I'm human because I think there's another element to it where if your kids do think you're perfect, if they do think you can do no wrong, then they think that that's the expectation for themselves. And that's how you create a generation of perfectionists who give themselves no grace because their parents never messed up, so I should never mess up.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds like that could have been me maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, my mother is great. She was great. She's always been great. But I do feel like that just not seeing that apologetic culture or environment maybe has created this perfectionist in me.
Did you ever get to see your mom like get emotional or like struggle?
I did see her struggle.
Yeah.
I did see a lot of struggle just in bad relationships.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's another part. I think I think a lot of parents don't let their kids see them struggle. They don't let them see them cry. They don't let them see them have a hard day. And that sets a whole nother expectation that I should never have bad days and everything should be easy. And even if it's hard, I should be able to put on a tough face and be fine.
Now, something just clicked in my head because I feel like you have brought up a couple different times about Jeremy working a lot and going and putting a lot of his time into that. Does that ever play a part in the whole parenting of like two little girls with him not being around so much? Because I feel like that's very relatable for a lot of people where one person in the relationship is like out doing 40 hours or more a week and just never around.
Yeah. And I hate like using language like he's not around or, you know, he's not there a lot because it's hard. He wants to be. He wants nothing more than to like be there. But
he's not going out and playing Topgolf.
Right. But I mean, the reality is, and like not like in a callous way, like there are marriages where the husband's gone all the time by choice, like hunting widows or fishing widows, or I mean, I live in Sportsman Paradise, so maybe that's Louisiana specific. I don't think it is, but I mean, I have friends that their husbands are gone every weekend hunting and work, you know. So I am thankful that like my husband doesn't really have a lot of hobbies because he doesn't really have a lot of time. He's good at everything, but he doesn't have a lot of time to do anything because if he isn't working, he's investing in his family. And that's like he takes a couple of like week-long hunting trips a year, and I love that. Like I want him to have the time to do that, but I mean, yeah, it is really hard, you know. And like I think people play the hardship Olympics with this kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, like my husband's gone from 4:30 to 6 every day and works every other weekend, and they're like, well, my husband works in the oil field and he's gone 14 on 14 off, and I'm like, okay. Do you want a cookie? Like, it's all hard. Like, we don't have to compare hard, but it is hard. It's and I work. I've essentially a full-time job. I work from home, but it's a lot, and I do a lot of the parenting does fall in my lap and on my shoulders, and so yeah, I mean it's a lot and it's hard, and it's been a point of contention for us in the past how much he works, and we'll get into it. And you know, I think I've had to grow in maturity and understanding that he works as hard as he does so that he can provide for his girls. You know, like he works as hard as he does. Yes, because he's an achiever. Yes, because he wants to be good at what he does. Yes, because he wants to be honorable, but also because he wants to provide the best that he can for us, and he does. You know, so it's a shift in mindset, I think, that's necessary, that has honestly just happened for me in like the last year of, you know, I would live in a box with him if that's what we had to do. Mm-hmm. But he works really hard for us to ensure that we don't. We actually don't, you know.
And I mean, his job, from what you told me, doesn't sound like one that's ever going to like go remote. It's not going to.
It wasn't remote during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's not going to decrease in hours or anything. So like, what's the plan as far as, because I think that a lot of families out there, they just say, well, we're just going to have to go through this struggle until you get to retirement. But that by that time, it's like, I don't know, maybe this is just from my personal experience, but I see families that at that point, it's like, okay, I've fallen out of love with you because I've put all my time into work, and so we're not in love anymore, and the kids are out of the house, and so
now we're roommates, or if they choose to stay together, or they just like go their separate way because they're just like, all right, well, we got through that, and now when we're sitting here alone, it's like, oh, I don't even like you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, and we've talked a lot, all right? Like, I really like him a lot, and we work really hard. We work really hard on our marriage and on our family, and you know, we've done the roommates thing. We know we did that early. We did the like not really liking each other and kind of being ambivalent about one another, and I never want to go back to that. And so we work really hard not to. And I mean, if I'm being honest, like we do have some like pipe dreams of me being able to retire him and him not even having to be at this job anymore.
Okay. Like a boss.
Right? I mean, how awesome would that be? Like for him to be able to work for me, and that'd be amazing. And I don't know that that's the plan. I don't know that that will pan out. It would be a couple of years before it did anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's why you have to be putting like the time and the effort into your marriage now. Like, yeah, our kids are young. We're in the trenches. He works a ton. My job's relatively stressful and takes a lot of my time. But like, you prioritize what you prioritize.
Yeah.
You know, and he's what I prioritize, and I'm what he prioritizes. So.
Yeah, and don't think that I can say a whole lot on this because I don't have any kids of my own, and so I have no idea how stressful and how much work and energy and time and all of that stuff. I mean, I taught for 3 years elementary, and so I know a little bit about what that's like, but they definitely are different when they're in a classroom than versus when they're at home. And I'm curious because like we talked about at dinner the other night with the kids that come to Disney and they've got an iPad in front of them and Mickey Mouse is right next to them and they just like don't even see him. And we talked about when we were kids and we could go out and just ride our bikes until the sun went down.
Yeah.
And we could, you know, just go out and do so many things. And you were saying like, oh yeah, I have a lot more like restrictions or like kind of guidelines with my kids. And you talked about like that sacrificial parenting. Can you talk like about that versus just kind of like the selfish, like, yeah, you go, you know, be on your iPad while mommy and daddy go over here and do this date.
Well, and like, I don't want to be judgmental. Like, I get it. I get like just sticking your kid in front of Netflix, and I get bringing an iPad to dinner. And I really do. Like, I understand that because it's exhausting. Life is exhausting. Parenting is exhausting. Marriage is exhausting. But at the same time, I don't know. We've just chosen to parent differently than that. And I don't want to be like, it's right, you're wrong. But but at the same, like, you know, my kids have very, like, but I'm also not like my kids don't do screen time. My kids have never watched a movie. Like, there's those parents where, like, again, do you want a cookie? Like, okay. You know, but like my kids have very limited access to entertainment. Like we were talking at dinner, my kids watch Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and Emperor's New Groove. Like,
yes.
Yeah, it's such a good, like, so underrated. Such an underrated movie. My kids watch like the classics. We have a lot of control over what they watch. They watch a lot of Peppa Pig. They don't just have like free access to Netflix, or like they do both have like the Kindle Fire, like the Amazon Kindle Fire for kids or whatever. But the reason we got those is because they are like locked down. Like they can only access what we put on it, you know, so those are great for travel or for like in the car. But because the unfortunate reality is that in my opinion, in this day and time, like I can't be like, go ride your scooters, go ride your bikes, come home when the street lamps come on. Because that's how your kid gets kidnapped. You know what I mean? Like, we can't do that. And I don't know if, I'm like, was kidnapping less prevalent in the 90s? Like, I don't know. Or did we just not know about it because of social media or what? But, like, I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. But what I can do is, like, turn off the TV and make them go play outside. What I can do is be, like, invested in their lives enough to sacrifice my own ability to relax or just kick back and chill and like lean in with my kids, you know? And so it's such a balancing act, and we don't do it perfectly, and I don't ever want to pretend like I do it perfectly. And there are days where I don't feel good and my kids watch 7 movies in a day. That's okay. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't think our generation of parents has done a great job of preserving kids' childhood. Like, I don't think kids have much of a childhood anymore.
Is there anything in particular that makes you think of that?
Well, I mean, think about how you remember your childhood. It was like being outside and like rub some dirt in it and riding bikes and I don't know, like trading Pokemon cards and yeah, you know, like playing what were those things?
Wait, what is it? What is happening here?
The stack, and you would
Pogs.
Like it was like
Yes.
do it like, you know, and it was having neighborhood friends, and it was popsicles and the ice cream truck. Like it was like out. It was so much more like outside and like I'm like worried that this next generation is gonna have like no social capacities because they've been like on their iPads and in front of a TV, or like Netflix is not a parent. Like it's just not. And I think, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, I just worry that our generation is like letting Netflix, or to go back to our previous conversation, the government or big tech parent their kids. And then like when they're old enough to come to you for advice, are they going to come to you, or are they going to go to Instagram? If you haven't invested, if you haven't leaned in, if you haven't spent the time, if you've taught them to go to like technology for everything, then that's going to be where they go when they want to learn about XYZ or what people believe or what they do in this situation versus coming to you. I want my kids to come to me. So like I have 2 daughters. I want them to come to me. I want them to talk to me. And it's not easy. And it would be way easier to just like let devices parent my kids. But I think that robs them of a childhood. I think that like we talked about this a little bit at dinner. Like I have a 7-year-old. She's going to be 7 next month. And she's innocent still. Like she still like believes in the magic and is so sweet and
Love it.
innocent, and she's amazing. And that's not to say that other kids aren't amazing, but I put her next to a 7-year-old who has been exposed to more of the world, and they're so much more jaded, and they're a lot of times like they're meaner and they don't believe in stuff anymore, and the way they talk, I'm like, oh my God, are you 7 or 14? You know? I don't know. I don't want to be like one's right and one's wrong, but I do think that like we've done what's right for us and our family in the way that we've chosen to parent. So.
Yeah, Ashley and I, you know, we talk about, hey, the day that we become parents, like, and we'll say, what about this? Or like, what about that? And so we'll try to have conversations, but it's like, you don't really know until you're there. And it's like, oh, wow, it's real. But one of the conversations that we have, a little debate that we have, because I come from the world of being a public school teacher, and she comes from the world of going to a private Catholic school, you know, for some of her life. And so she got to see like the value in that. I know that for you, you had kind of put your daughter into public school, but then you took her out.
Yep.
So, and I know that your kids are very young, so you're just like in the beginning of figuring this out. What was the decision to go, you know what, we're done with public schools and we're only doing private schools?
Well, what's funny is like in that debate, like the private versus public school debate, I used to be on your side of it. Like my husband's best friend, he's one of my really good friends now. And we always joke when we're together, if we don't debate, it's weird. Like Ben and I debate about everything. The first debate we ever had was public versus private school, and I was on the public side of that debate. So who I am as a parent has changed really radically over the last, I would say, 1.5 years, 2 years. 2 years. It was like literally 6 months before COVID hit. I did this kind of like 180. Partially, to be honest, because I finally got my medication figured out, and being a mom with anxiety, like with like crippling anxiety, can be really difficult because it was just like everything was scary and I couldn't think straight and everything was foggy. And it's part of why I don't eat gluten anymore, is because it's like really helpful with brain stuff. And so, yeah, I put my 4-year-old on a bus to kindergarten, public school.
That's really young.
Yeah. She's like 7 days before the cutoff. Her birthday is.
Okay.
So she was a baby, and I put her on a bus and sent her to kindergarten. And it's not judging. There's nothing wrong with that. But now, literally over my dead body. Like I would never now. So it's not just like public private school. Like my entire parenting philosophy has changed. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I used to like judge moms that didn't vaccinate their kids, you know, but yeah, so she did a year of kindergarten, and our plan was always to hold her back because she's so young. And because of the seizure that we mentioned earlier, it did have some like residual impacts, and there were some medications that she was on that caused some slight just like developmental delays. Like she's not delayed, she's just like a teeny tiny bit behind, which is fine. So then she's young and behind. So we thought, because like state-wise, we thought we had to put her into kindergarten. Again, wasn't informed consent. I didn't know to do the research and know that you can opt out. So we send her to kindergarten. The plan is always to hold her back and have her do kindergarten again. And then the public school system won't hold her back. They did not, that because of their retention numbers, they wanted it to look a certain way. They fought us tooth and nail on holding her back.
You wanted it, and they said no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Bad. Like, they got caught in lies. Like, it went all the way to the school board. It was like a whole thing. Because I was like, I'm not sending my kid to first grade and like throwing her in the deep end and hope she swims. Like, I'm not doing that. And so that was kind of like the final drop in the bucket of me trusting my kids with the government. I was like, literally, screw all y'all. Like, pulled her out. So beginning of March is when Louisiana schools closed because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was still kind of okay with her being in public school, and was like, okay, well, now that she's going to miss March, April, May, she's going to miss 3 full months of being in actual school. Now they're definitely going to hold her back. And they still wouldn't hold her back. They were still telling us no. So I pulled her. I just literally pulled her then, which was great because we didn't have to do virtual schooling anymore, which was miserable. I pulled her, got the last kindergarten spot at the school she's in now, which is like a homeschool co-op and a private Christian school had a baby. It's like so perfect and like such a godsend.
That's neat.
But yeah, that was like the last time that the government got to tell me what to do with my kids.
Man. So this was not COVID and like being in quarantine and sitting around and like rethinking life. This was like right before.
Yeah.
Was there something that sparked this whole like rethinking everything you had been taught or rethinking everything you knew to be true?
I think so. She had her seizure in 2015, and I was a wreck. I mean, literally almost watched my kid die. So I was just kind of a disaster for like a full year. So that takes us to 2016. 2016 is when I start kind of putting the dots together. She got 4 vaccinations 2 days before she had her seizure. Could those things be related? Start doing that research. That research is like another year. So now we're in like 2017. And then that was when I was like, oh, it was like, I like talked to a doctor who is friendly to people who don't want to vaccinate their kids, which is rare. And they were like, yeah, I would make that connection. And that was kind of, so then from like 17, 18, 19 was this slow morph. It was not overnight. It was this kind of slow morph in my parenting and in my philosophy and how I handled things and approached things. And then them not wanting to hold her, but sitting in a meeting with the principal of her school, and the principal being like, well, I don't really know that she's a candidate. And I have the papers that like her teacher is recommending that she's held back. Was just kind of this eye-opening. And I don't want to, like, I love teachers and teachers are wonderful. It wasn't a teacher issue. It was an administration issue. It was like the system issue. It was like, you're not for my kid. You don't want my kid to succeed. You want your numbers to look good. That was a little bit of a light bulb where I was like, no, I'm not doing this with you anymore. So,
man. Well, and on top of all of this, like, you're not just running an Instagram. You told me the other night you have 6 streams of income, and I'm like, I was like trying to think of like, okay, what all is she doing? Like, what are these 6 streams? Like, what are you doing?
yeah.
And maybe you're not comfortable with sharing all 6.
Yeah. I literally teach people how to, So like I have an online course, so I teach people how to like make money on the internet.
Okay.
In a way that like honors God with their gifts.
Sweet.
I have a membership group that's like we do like a deep dive every month into different topics and different like real life things from a biblical standpoint. So course, membership group,
And what's the community called?
the collective,
The Collective. Yeah.
Crappy
Cool.
Christian Collective. I love
Alliteration.
alliteration.
Yeah. That's cool.
Podcast ads, affiliate marketing. I'm like an affiliate with a couple of companies. Talk about their stuff. People buy it through my link. I get paid.
Okay.
I have merch,
Yes.
and we have digital products.
Wow. Are these nails, is that like some of the stuff that they pay you to like
Yeah.
show off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you love these nails. Like
I
you-
do.
I saw you had like so many boxes of like all different types, and I was like, Ashley can't see this content.
I almost. Oh wait, that reminds me. Hold on one second.
Uh-oh.
Can you reach my backpack?
You
I
d-
didn't bring out ashes. I
Okay.
didn't bring out ashes, but I forgot that I brought you my favorite candy, and I
You-
knew I was gonna forget.
Wait, what? What are these? What are those? Nerds, Gummy Clusters. Sponsored by Nerds Gummy Clusters.
I should be sponsored by Nerd Gummy
Are-
Clusters.
Are
Have you had these yet?
They look like Nerds rope, but
Cut down, but they're
biteab-
better.
Like
yeah.
yeah, in like a biteable
Yeah.
size.
It's like my Instagram legacy. Like everybody's like, why did you introduce me to these?
Oh my gosh.
They're so good.
Well, these are absolutely amazing, and you've been amazing. And for anyone at home, go get some Nerds Clusters or your favorite candy. And you know what? Go get your spouse's favorite candy and go surprise them, because that would be
sweet.
yeah, the nice thing to do.
Yeah.
We have time, I think, for maybe one more question. I am curious. I listened to a podcast episode of The Crappy Christian, and you talked about your fall mission with Heritage Ranch.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, because I think that kind of aligns with what our mission is.
Yeah.
In a way.
It does a little bit. Yeah. So Heritage Ranch is a local boys' home to me. So it's in Zachary, Louisiana. And they bring in boys, but I love it because they come from a holistic standpoint. So it's not like just bring me your kids that are struggling and like you get to tap out and we'll take care of them. Like it's like a very like the whole family goes to counseling. They want to work with the family to kind of walk through a season of difficulty. So the boys come and live there. They go to school there. They have counseling, but it's this, I think, 75-acre ranch. So they can ride horses and, you know, have this whole experience, and it's Christ-centered. But their point and their hope and their heart is to like get the whole family to a place where they can like walk forward, you know, healthily. So they won't accept a boy or a kid if the family is not willing to do the work.
That's awesome.
And so we've partnered with them. We do a quarterly mission project with the Crappy Christian Company, and
Super cool.
our fall project is basically just like getting them the stuff that they want, not that they need. So they have the budget for stuff that they need.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what do you want? What would make your life easier? What would be fun to have? Like board games for the house, or
Yes.
you know, desks for the different like books or whatever. Like it was like, and so it was funny because it was like pulling teeth getting them to make this list because they're so used to working on a budget. And I was like, no, like, what would you want? What would be cool to have? Like colored paper to print stuff on, you know, like stuff like that. So yeah, we're working with them this fall. I think they'll actually probably likely be our Christmas mission project as well, just because I love working with them. But yeah, you can go to crappychristianco.com/heritage-ranch, and all of I just had them make Amazon wish lists. And so you can go into the Amazon wish list, purchase what you want, and it ships straight to them. And just kind of like
That's super
blessing
cool.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, our hope and our goal, and I mean, people that have been watching this on YouTube, and you've seen this thing popping up over here next to me that says Text Freedom. If anybody texts that number or text Freedom to that number, sorry, they actually get to try to help in our mission of getting a gospel-centered home for every kid in the foster care system.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's as easy as just like starting to do a prayer challenge, a 7-day prayer challenge, just to kind of like get their mind behind the different parts of that.
Yeah.
But I love that, like, behind everything that you're doing, like talking about vaccine mandates, talking about everything going on in Afghanistan and all this controversial stuff, it is all kind of to build up this community to help support these things. I mean, because you said you have 4 different ones a year. Is that?
Yeah.
So like having these different missions that you can help support and fund, but you can't do it on your own. You have to have this community behind you to do it.
Exactly.
So if anybody that has listened to this, heard this, is out there wondering how can I get behind this girl Blake, what are the handles that they need to follow?
Yeah.
What are the podcasts they need to check out?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at the girl named Blake, because people always think I'm a boy. And Crappy Christian Co. is the Crappy Christian Instagram. And Instagram's really the only place that I hang out. I have no capacity for any more social media channels than that one. And we have my podcast is Confessions of a Crappy Christian. You can listen to that wherever you're listening to this. We're not on YouTube, but you can listen to it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
And stay young, stay married, but definitely stay Christian. See you guys next time.
Hey, y'all, we hope you loved this conversation. Here at Young Married Christian, we are on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. There are 400,000 kids in the foster care system, and there are 400,000 churches in America. Wow, that is crazy. This is absolutely a solvable problem, and we want to be a part of it. If you want to join us in that mission, text the word FREEDOM to 833-370-1610.
833-370-1610. 833-370-1610.
I just did it.
And another thing you can do that is really helpful is to smash the like button on this video.
Smash it like Satan's face. Crush it like it's Lucifer's head.
It really helps us a ton, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel,
That's it.
smash the like button on this video.